Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. Right? That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Yes, we will. Couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. And today, I have a very, very special show lined up for you guys. I have 2 very, very, very special guests coming on. The first hour, I'm going to be joined not only by my co-host, JJ, who is always hanging out with me, but I'm going to be joined by one of the most awesome activists you guys will ever meet. He's a radio show host himself. He's got a very impressive background. He's been hosting radio shows since he was like 15 years old. Okay, that's impressive in itself.
Nice.
And he's an all-around great guy. His name's Bob Tuskin. And in the second hour, we're going to be joined by Gary Franchi from RTR. He's made Camp FEMA 2. So stick around. The show is going to be great today. But without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to the man himself, Bob Tuskin. Take a bow.
Hey, thanks so much, Popeye. No, you're too kind. I'm a big fan of Federal Jack and all that you do. And when I saw your attempt at the city commission meetings, I said, this guy gets it. This is what it's all about. We need to get in front of our commissioners, in front of the local channels, and get the word out, whether it's on fluoride, 9/11, you name it. We have to demand chemtrails has been a big one. We met with the local EPA officials here, and I urge everyone to meet with their local EPA officials.
What was their response to you, Bob?
Well, it was interesting because
I'm going to Skype call them. My show's on Sunday, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them on my Skype account and record them. Obviously, you got to tell them you're recording, right? So who knows if the interview will just end right there, but yeah. And I've been noticing that they've been flying lower and lower and lower. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, what was the response? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, not a problem. Well, what happened was we actually set up a hearing with them, and met with the local EPA officials. Every county around the country has its own board of EPA officials.
Right.
And we were referred to them by the county, actually, after going to the county meetings. In addition to being able to speak at the city commission meetings, usually you have an opportunity to speak at your county meetings as well. So the county referred us to the EPA board here locally. We sat down with them. We presented our information. They actually heard us out, asked questions. All of that was recorded and we put up at our YouTube channel, all linked up to bobtuskin.com. That's Tuskin. And we sat down with them. They gave us some recommendations. We talked about, establishing more tests and what tests they had. And we followed up with them, and no real breakthroughs as of right now, but we're still hoping to work with them. And at the very least, we hope to be an example to other people around the country to do the same thing. Because if everyone was doing this on a grassroots level, we might see some change. Now, we have to realize that the chemtrail aerosol operation is compartmentalized, and it's on a need-to-know basis.
But I can tell you it's nationwide.
Every local EPA official, though, is not in on the deal.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, absolutely. But I just went across the country, and let me tell you something, Mr. Tuskin, I saw aerosol spraying in every state.
Oh, yeah, and in different countries as
Nevada
well.
And back.
Yeah, it's international. This operation is something that is poisoning us worldwide, and we have to ask ourselves.
Silver oxide, it's, that's what they, I mean, that would be one legitimate if they were, seeding clouds, but, you both know as well as I do that they've been finding aluminum and barium in it, in the groundwater and virgin waters, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the best way to establish that evidence is by taking a sterilized jar and collecting the water yourself. You don't believe what we're saying? Verify the test yourself. And your local EPA, like ours, will expect that. They want to verify this to make it relevant to them. And if that's what they need, well, then by all means, let's give it to them. Let's establish the science behind it. And it's already out there. People like Rosalind Peterson, Clifford Carnicom.
And you want to get a couple of pebbles. You get right there in the water, and you just get a sample from the bottom, right? Because that's where everything that's where all the sediment drops to. Yeah,
but the best way to do it is rainwater and collect the rainwater with a sterilized jar. So, and you want to do it after they spray heavily. And you'll notice that the spraying often parallels with a heavy rain. So, it's very common.
Tornadoes in upstate New York last week, which is...
You had tornadoes as well, wow.
Which is uncommon to say the least.
Yeah, there's all sorts of reports about HAARP being involved with that.
Well, New York State is very mountainy area, so for you guys to have tornadoes is very odd because the mountains themselves, the drafts that come up and over the mountains and everything, that hampers a lot of tornado forming. And, a lot of people who don't understand, mountains really block the formation of tornadoes. I'm not saying they can't happen, but it's an oddity when it happens in a mountainous area.
Especially where I live in central New York, right in the center of the state.
It's just odd. And I grew up in the Northeast, so I understand. And Bob, actually, you've been up north, correct? You from New York originally?
Yeah, my family's all from New York, and a lot of my relatives are still up there. So I lived there for a time, and it's a beautiful state. People forget,
8,000 lakes, rivers, and streams.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. It's got so many different wildlife preserves and beautiful areas. The Catskills are beautiful.
I saw a bald eagle in my yard, not in my yard, but from my yard, just the other day.
And then JJ shot it and ate it.
Just kidding. That's highly illegal.
I know that.
They're going to raid your house for that comment.
They'd come there quicker than...
We're going to be at your door tomorrow because I said that.
Are you kidding me? That'd be just my luck, too.
Well, see, Federal Jack, and you wonder why they come after you, man.
And the preserve where they actually, because they were so endangered up here, but at Montezuma, if you live anywhere near there, it's actually illegal for you to even cut your own trees down. You got to get permission. You have to go to the town board and get permission.
To Agenda 21, and that's just going to be happening. Dude, all this, the whole thing, I just put up a video Lauren Murray. I think Bob. I think you know who she is. She's part of the. She was on Ventura's show. She talked about during the water episode she was on. She was the one that told about the Chinese taking the aquifer, the freshwater aquifers, and they're taking it with huge bladders all over to China.
Nationally, they just signed, and there was a big to-do about it, but in the media, nothing. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway Water Resource Compact, which essentially are UN rules and regulations, and there goes our the rights to our own water. You know what I'm saying? You guys should Google that.
And water is what it's all about, really. I mean, we could talk about oil and all these other things, but the fact is that we can't live without water.
Bob had an interesting conversation a couple weeks ago about Libya, and I actually, I believe that you even called in Coast to Coast questioning some stuff about Libya and Iraq and everything else. But during Welcome back, guys. Sorry about going right into break. We didn't even realize that the bumper music was a little low, and we were having such a great. Well, yeah, I didn't hear it come in, so it's my fault. But we were having such an enthralling conversation with Bob Tuskin that you didn't really miss much. It's okay. We picked it up as soon as we heard the commercials, and we stopped talking. So we're back. Sorry, my mistake. I know, rookie mistake, whatever. Anyway, Bob, tell the people a little bit about yourself, like why you got involved, what woke you up, and the things that you're doing right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Popeye. What got me involved, what woke me up, 9/11, of course, was a big thing for all of us. And to realize that we were lied to about the largest crime in our lifetimes, one of the most significant events in our lifetime, what else could we be lied about, rather. So you got to ask yourself, what's really going on here? And through that, you can go down the rabbit hole and keep going down and keeping an open mind and critical thinking. I've been listening to talk radio and alternative media since I was 10 years old. I used to listen to Coast AM nightly as a kid, and I would tune in every single night and stay up late. And, of course, my school and whatnot suffered because of that, but I certainly did get an alternative education rather than the indoctrination that most children face these days, and that's a whole different show.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks. But the bottom line is, there's no one issue that I like to pigeonhole myself with. And once you have woken up to, these various larger issues like 9/11 and whatnot, you realize that the list never stops. And to limit yourself is just, selling yourself short. So we have to, be an expert on a lot of different topics. And that's why I host a radio show, so that I can interview different people that are a heck of a lot smarter than I am on a various, different amount of topics. So the radio show is a big thing that I do. The second hour is picked up on the network here. And I'm thankful for that opportunity to get the word out and to continue the learning process, which that basically is all what my radio show is. It's just my learning process, and I'm sharing with you, and it's an excuse to interview all sorts of great guests. I've interviewed many different guests now, and I realized that there is no shortage of guests and information to look at. So don't sell yourself short, folks. Don't become too one-sided. Don't become, only a Zionist guy, or only a chemtrail guy, or only a fluoride guy. All of these things are important to expose and to look at.
Well, just to look at least, right?
Well, at least, there's an Aristotle quote that I often use that goes something like this, that it's the art of a good thinker to entertain a thought without accepting it. And that's what we need to do. We need to be agnostic with our thinking. We can't be closed-minded, and as much as we have to keep an open mind, we don't want it to be too open, because then it's a programmable mind. So it's essential that we have the proper skills of critical thinking and logic and whatnot. And that's been something I've been focusing a lot of my time on, is looking at the skills of the trivium, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And it's essential a tool to look through all the lies and to, not get caught up in the logical fallacies, the ad hominem fallacies, you name it. The list goes on, because that's what the mainstream media does. They know that people don't have the constructive, critical thinking to see through the lies, and that's how they're able to brainwash so many people.
Right, or the confidence to even trust their own conclusions. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people might not think, they might not think if they did 100 hours of research that it means anything, that they came to a different conclusion than NIST or, the 9/11 Commission. But I'm here to tell you that, it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter how far you went through school. Your conclusions are valid if you've put in some of the research.
Exactly. It doesn't look. I've had people tell me, "I'll bet you don't have a university degree." No, you know what? I don't, because I didn't pay $25,000 a year to go get indoctrinated into someone else's BS.
Popeye, that right there, though, is an appeal to authority fallacy.
Yeah.
Because the information unto itself has nothing to do with the messenger. Okay, so
exactly.
To shoot the messenger is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't attack. It's like what they. I mean, I personally think WikiLeaks is a CIA / Mossad, intelligence front. But I have people that disagree with my opinion on that. But allegedly, whatever. The point is, look how they treat Assange. Rather than look at the information, stuff like DynCorp trafficking little boys over for sex parties with Afghan police.
You get laughed at if you talk about that. Like, that's like,
but
it's
instead
not
of focusing on that, they focus on Assange leaking it.
Yeah.
Like, what? Who cares about it?
And the public relations
smuggling little kids for sex parties. That's disgusting.
That was their main concern, was the public relations. That the information and the diplomatic relations.
It's PR. It's all CYA. They want to cover their butts.
Mm-hmm.
And they dismiss. It's funny because they have, again, Pavlovian response. People are like, "Oh, conspiracy theory." Ha 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 ha. They laugh at any time you bring that up. It's a very programmed response. But look at the people Bob has on his show. In fact, some of the guests that
he's got a great show. I listened to
exactly
it for almost a month now or so.
I have to be honest. I'll give him credit because of Bob. Bob introduced me to a few people that that I knew, but I didn't have contact with them, and now I'll be able to, they're going to be able to come on my show and give out information. So you guys, a lot of people have Bob Tuskin to thank, so pay attention.
Well, information should be open source. There's no sense in hoarding guests or contacts like other individuals.
Charging for archives. I hate that.
That's why we link. That's why we're all but Bob and I are part of a greater effort to kind of link all these grassroots organizations together and bridge all these gaps, so that rather having all these little satellites speaking, blah 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 blah, we can not only work in unison as well as working separately, but we'll have that gap bridged so that we all
have our own little crews too, not crews, but our own little groups of people that.
Well, look, the information needs to get out. The only way we're going to win is if
it spreads that way.
That's why I have the opening of my show, the Al Pacino speech. That's why it's there. That's why I edited it together so that you can, I hope it inspires people. That's why people need to come together as a unit, and work together instead of,
don't be afraid to get pushed, because, if you're not getting pushed around a little bit, then.
Look, you're not doing something right if you're not getting any flack, okay? Like, any bombardier will tell you, you get the most flack when you're over target. So if you're getting people making fun of you and laughing at you and stuff, you're doing something right. Don't feel bad if someone picks on you because you're giving them information and they say, "Oh, ha ha ha, you're crazy." You should feel empathy for that person because they're so brainwashed that they can't comprehend anything that they're not told by the mainstream media. Now that's pathetic. You're not pathetic for going, "Hey, we're on a train and the train's going off a cliff." They're pathetic for going, "Oh, I don't see any problem. What's the big deal?" That's pathetic, at least in my opinion. That's how I view it. And that's why I do what I do. We're on a train. I see us going off the cliff. And if we don't do something about it, I'm going to bail off the train no matter what. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go off the cliff with the train. I'm trying to take as many people with me and save as many lives and educate and wake as many people up. And just maybe if we wake up enough people, maybe we can stop the train from going off the cliff. You know what I'm saying? That's my goal, is to stop the train altogether, because I don't want anybody to go off the cliff. But the conductor seems to be psychotic, and he likes the Rothschild family, and he just wants to put it full bore. You know, he's getting his orders from the Vatican, and they're going full bore. So,
well, to continue the analogy of the train.
You know what? Hold on, guys. We're going to break. Guys, we'll be right back. We're going to go pay some bills. When we come back, I'm going to have Bob Tuskin pick up right where he was about to pick up, and we'll be right back.
I will die, succeed, live in the struggle. I know I'm alive when I bleed. From now on, it can never be the same as before, because the place that I'm from doesn't exist anymore. This is the point of no return.
Welcome back to the show. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, federaljack.com. And today in the first hour, I'm joined by Bob Tuskin, the man, the legend himself. Bob. Yeah. Well, you got a show on Oracle. What time is the show? Tell people what time your show is, and what the topics you discuss and everything else.
Cool. Yeah, it's 8 to 10 East Coast time. That's 8 to 10 p.m. East Coast time. It's also on the O'Brien Radio Network for the second hour of the program. So check it out on Micro 1650 AM for the second hour as well. And we cover different topics every night, really. I don't like to pigeonhole myself, as I said, too much. I'm very interested in health and, this pharmaceutical industrial complex that is poisoning us, preventing people from being able to think straight in order to become aware of just how deep this satanic New World Order is. So I cover that topic a lot on the show. It comes up quite a bit. On Monday's show, we'll be talking with a friend of mine and longtime health activist and researcher, Liam Sheff. We also talk about just about you name it. We'll go into survival and preparedness. That's a topic that continues to come up as an extremely important topic. As you know, I am an organic gardener and very much interested in trying to get prepared so that not just for myself and my family, but for my neighbors as well.
And because you can't wait to the last minute to learn how to do these kind of things.
Oh, if you think you're going to be able to wake up one day, JJ, and say, oh, all of a sudden I'm going to wake up because I can't go to the store, I got to go to a FEMA camp or martial law, sort of deal with our grocery stores, which will happen at some point. They'll be rationing out food. If you don't want to put up with that, folks, you better start learning now, because you're not just going to be able to wake up. This takes a little bit of experience.
It's like JJ said, waiting till the learning curve is death or learning is not the time to do it. You want to be prepared by that.
You want to be able to fail a few times.
Well, you're going to.
You've got to learn your lessons.
Give yourself room to fumble and make a mistake.
There's lessons that only experience can teach you.
Exactly.
You're going to fail, yeah. But at that same token, baby steps, folks, because Absolutely. It is a bit overwhelming.
A little bit each year, or a little bit,
Yeah, I don't want you to take too much on. Get in the habit. Start getting some of the basic skills down. And you'll learn and build upon that. And our show likes to do that. I got off the grid for a while, as I was telling you, Popeye. I moved to Mexico in the middle of nowhere and lived on the land essentially with several fruit trees that we planted. We planted about 40 fruit trees. Our water supply came from an aquifer from the mountains there. It was absolutely beautiful, out of the scenes of a movie. But at some point, I felt very selfish. Here I am wasting away in paradise, essentially. Knowing that the rest of the world, my family, my friends, my neighbors, the people that I was working with the radio show, everyone else, essentially, is headed to complete chaos. And that, how selfish is it of me? It's being no different in a sense than the elite that are building these underground bunkers with their botanical gardens. Okay, if I don't want to be as evil as they are, then I need to get back and do something. And at some point, I hope to have an internet connection with a similar type situation. But at that time, I could not afford nor establish an internet connection where I was. So it was more important for me to come back and continue the show and the activism. And since then, I'm glad I did come back because I've confronted so many douchebags. Part of my candidness.
You can say douchebag, by the way.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
That's one of our favorite words here.
It is, dude.
Douchebag and jerk off are two of my favorite
I know it's not
verbs.
It's probably not the best way to say
and listen,
it.
Bob, here's something else that you always got to keep in mind is, and I know you do, is, look, people talk about, well, you should just pack your stuff up and get out of there. Look, it's too late, man, because there's too many people, not just my family, but friends and other people that are counting on me. This is where I'm at. This is where I make my stand locally. I mean, that's all I can say is
well, you have to. Where are you going to run to eventually? If you keep running, where are you going to go? What country are you going to go to? No other country on the planet has our freedoms to protect ourselves like we do.
It's Popeye. It's not known as the New World Order for nothing.
Exactly. Like, where are you going to go? People tell me I'm going to leave the United States, and I'm like, where are you going to go? What other country can you go to? At least here in the States, we still have the Second Amendment right now. If you go to other countries, you can't even defend yourself.
Sometimes, allegedly.
Dude, I love Holland, okay? My mother was born in Holland. I've been to the country twice. I love it. It's an awesome country. But one of the things that's really retarded about the country is you can't defend yourself there. I asked a cop when I was there, I said, hey, what are your laws and stuff here? I know you guys don't carry guns, or the people can't carry guns, but what are the laws for defending yourself? And they said you're not allowed to. If you swing back, you'll get arrested too and charged with the same, crime of fighting and assault or whatever. I said, so what are you supposed to do? And they say you're supposed to call the police. So they literally want you to just turn into a little ball and get beat up. And that's because
coming here too quick.
Well, yeah, but see, and I'm not making fun of anybody in Holland. That is a result of them, the police and their society having weapons taken away from them and then being, as John Preston would call it, pussified. And they're like their feeling towards self-defense is completely different than ours. It's amazing.
True. Well, even right now, I can tell you this: if there's somebody in your house, killing you and your wife and your family, and there might be if there was 5 cops outside your door, if you think they're going to kick like Kojak, kick your door in and go room to room, and they'll stand outside the house until you're all murdered and then order them out or have a big standoff. But they're not coming in there to save you, so you better learn how to save yourself at least.
Another thing,
or be willing to.
There's another drastic difference.
Have that willingness.
If you watch the Charlie Veach video where Charlie Veach gets arrested, watch how the British cops arrest Charlie Veach and think about how the American cops would have handled it. The cop comes in and he's like, may I? First they ask if they can come in. Charlie says no, and he says, well, I'm going to have to place you under arrest. Now, by law, I can come in. But he wasn't. I mean, the cop was doing his job, but he was almost like very robotic and very methodic about it. But at the same time, he let Charlie brush his teeth, go to the bathroom.
I know, but that was just as scary in a sense. That
it was very New World Order 1984.
Very much.
He was leaving. There was no way. Even if he didn't brush his teeth, he was going to stay home.
Sure. No, you were going to take the ride. It was very creepy. But can you imagine how the American cops would have handled it?
The Bobby, as they call him, even said the word draconian.
Oh, he said not yet. Did you see that? Did you catch the 1984 doublespeak, Bob? He goes, not to be draconian, but.
Yes, absolutely.
when they add the but, be prepared. Okay, or as we
for them to become draconian.
We say in the military, bohica, which stands for bend over, here it comes again. Okay.
Nice.
So whenever you hear them say, I don't mean to, but they're going to do what they just said they didn't want to do. You're about to get that and experience it. And Tuskin's right. It was very Orwellian and creepy because as polite as they were, it was very matter of fact. It was
a foregone conclusion.
It's a political arrest. And to Charlie's girlfriend's credit, she kept pressing the cops and saying, hey, how does this make you feel? Yes, she did. How does this make you feel? How does this make you feel? And the cop was like, well, it's my job.
Yeah, and that's the response we get a lot of times.
Just following orders. See, Kyle.
But unfortunately, yes. And I hate to use that example because, the Holocaust example is.
Of course, but you need only look at the Germans to see exactly what following orders gets you. Ignorance is bliss, and that's.
You even have to use that. You can use other examples. I mean, look Look what we did to the Chinese in this country. We rounded them up, put them in concentration camps, and some of them were shot. Or excuse me, not the Chinese, the Japanese. My bad.
All I'm saying is following orders doesn't
Germans
cut
and
it.
Italians too, and there were American citizens that were shot and killed simply for just getting too close to the fence. But hey, we were just following orders, right?
Yeah.
Well, there comes a time where we have to stand up and say to ourselves, does this fulfill one of God's laws? Is this a natural law?
Well, I can tell you something right now, Bob. If every inmate in America right now, every single one all together got up and stormed the gates, there's nothing they could do. They're all free. I mean, it just won't happen. But,
Well, our prison population is creepy. We have, what is it? We have 25% of the world's, 25% of the world's criminals are in the United States alone. All right, guys, we're going to break. We'll be right back. We're going to pay the bills. When we come back, you're going to hear more from Bob Tuskin. And if he wants to, I invite Bob to hang out for the second hour when Gary comes on. We'll find out when we come back from break if Bob can hang out or not.
What's your angle? Are you a devil or an angel? And I say both, as I continue to blame the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, the real reason New York lost their towers. Don't sit back or hesitate to react to the impact. Many taking a nap. In fact, they would fake an attack to make way for the patriot.
Welcome back to the show. All right, guys, I have to put some rumors to rest. I have to tell the truth. Bob Tuskin does have multiple personality disorder, okay? And he is a mind control slave. He's got an alter ego that goes by the name of Bob Tusk. And I believe actually Bob is here with us. Bob, are you here?
Yes, this is Bob Tusk, and I'm glad that you have me on the show to finally talk about how we are trying to kill you. You are nothing but Goyim, and the wedding, well, that was just a celebration of what's to come.
Yes, and I wanted to let people know that the rumors are true, that because both of us come from a Jewish background, that we're both evil. So I just wanted to, we both work for the Rothschild family.
Why do you think we wear the yarmulkes?
Exactly. So I just wanted to get it out in the open. Yes, we are Illuminati, we are evil, and I wanted to bring Bob Tusk on the show to show you that, yes, Bob Tuskin is actually a puppet of Bob Tusk, the real evil entity. So, yes. I hope that puts all the rumors to rest.
Yeah, that sounded so real. I mean, I'm convinced.
Hey, Popeye, will you do me a favor and not have him on again? He just follows me and is just such a pain.
I know.
Jeez.
He's a psycho. He's a stalker. That's what happens when you have an alter ego that works for the New World Order.
He's been calling up all these radio shows lately, claiming to be a whistleblower. It's been really bad. Jeez.
Yes. Okay. We joke. We fool around sometimes.
We have to stop with the inside jokes because the listeners are tuned in to hear about how we're going to inspire the revolution. They don't know.
Yeah. Here we are joking, but you know what? Sometimes we need to inject a little humor to make them laugh, because if we were all doom and gloom, then. We'd be like every other radio show host, and they'd probably want to go shoot themselves in the head at the end of the day, because we'd just be filling their head with negative programming. But
that's true.
Well, it is what it is.
Well, you know what? Sometimes it's good to have a little humor.
We've had some really good shows that we put out a lot of information. 90% of our shows are just strictly content.
And that's why I'm bringing more and more guests on. But again, I got to thank Bob for helping me be able to get some quality guests on, not have people call up and want to talk about like going and working out or, their teeth or anything like that. I have actual guests on, so it's
Who
nice.
might that be?
I'm just playing. Everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Oh.
I won't out him on the show. I won't say anything on the air. I'm just playing.
No problem. No, we get some great calls on our show from time to time. And, it's great to interact with people out there, because we all feel kind of alone in the so-called truth movement, because we don't see a lot of people around us in our daily lives a lot of the time that are into this stuff to the extent that we are, at least. I have some friends that are scratching the surface, but...
Well, you know what, Bob? Here's the deal. I don't care, and it's all I talk about. Now, because I anytime anybody says anything to me, you know what? I just don't care at this point. I do not present myself as though I have a bullhorn and I'm a Jehovah's Witness. But what I do is I don't pull any punches anymore in any conversation with anybody. When any subject comes up, I tell them what I know, sort of. You know what I mean? I don't play along like, oh, I'm going to be politically correct a little bit. I just say, you know what? Mm-hmm. This is it. This is how it is, really.
See, that's kind of my personality, JJ. I've always been like that. And that's why, my parents thought I was a pain in the butt probably as I was growing up. Because, if my parents gave me some line of bull, I called them out on it. I love them to death. But that unconditional love is one in which I think needs to be honest with reality. And, now I talk to my parents, and they might not be on the same level that I am, but I at least can explain to them what's going on. And that's the toughest thing, I think, is trying to get out there and not create too much of a dichotomy between us and still at the same time not be silent, not be complicit in the madness.
Right, and just don't ever go along with, what they're selling on the mainstream. Somebody telling you, well, the price of oil is strictly because we invaded Libya. Tell them, no, the price of oil is because the Federal Reserve prints trillions of freaking dollars and that puts it into circulation, and because of the way that there's all kinds of derivatives out there in the world. This is the reason that gas is going to be $5 a gallon. They just use Libya as an excuse.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even that. It's speculation. I mean, we're not
absolutely.
Really, we don't get any oil from Libya. It's just people going, hey, gas might go up to this, so they just raise the prices.
Hey,
Popeye, but tell them why,
May I speculate for a moment? Here's my speculation.
Yeah, throw out your speculation there, Bob Tuskin.
Here's Bob Tuskin's gas oil speculation. It's all crap. It's all a fraud. Yep. We have had alternative energies, technologies, free energy, Tesla, you name it, the list goes on and on. It's all a fraud. It's all mind control. It's all BS, and we need to move beyond it.
I agree.
Well, I think they turned off the power at the studio.
Hey, Bob, I got it. No, I was reading a question for a second from one of the people in the chat room. They want to know.
What do they want?
They want me to ask you about Trivium and if you have links for it.
Yeah, triviumeducation.com. That's the best site. My buddy Jan Irvin with Gnostic Media Podcast does a wonderful job. I'm doing interviews on a regular basis with a guy by the name of Gene O'Denning, and he's the guy that tutors me.
Go ahead and give it another shout out one more time.
Sure. triviumeducation.com. And I'm glad they asked, because that's something everyone needs to follow up on.
It was my fault. Saul was asking. He's a fellow host here on the Orion Radio Network, and he was asking. Yeah, and I was doing multiple things, and I noticed he asked, and I kept forgetting to ask you. So
no problem.
He was yelling at me in the chat room to ask.
He did it on purpose, Saul.
Yeah, I wasn't ignoring you, Saul. Today I have a very short attention span because I'm doing like 18 things at once while I'm hosting the show. So,
yeah, well, that's what it's all about, though. They don't want you to know what's really going on or to know how to learn what's really going on. And they teach this amongst their schools. They're teaching this amongst the elite. This is taught. This classical education is what it's known as, is taught in these elite fraternities and elite schools and the, Rhodes Scholar programs and whatnot. So they are making use of these skills, and they know that we're too dumb, us the useless eater goyim, to see through this stuff. So, of course, they're going to be able to manipulate us with their propaganda campaigns. Of course, they're going to be able to manipulate us and get us for a war effort because of a false flag terrorist attack.
What's your theory on MK Ultra mind control, like Project Monarch, Bob?
Great question. My theory on it, there's clear evidence that people have been involved with these programs, and it happens here locally to a certain extent in my area. I've met people involved locally here that were abused. I've known many victims of this multi-generational trauma-based mind control abuse, and I can't imagine that all of these people are just making this up. There's too much evidence that shows, regardless if their stories are legitimate or not, people like Kathy O'Brien, Aaron McCollum, and so many others we have to take a look at the fact that there is such a thing as physical trauma that creates a schism in the brain, which creates a barrier that allows for these people to develop these multiple personalities so that they don't know when they're the other person or not. And it's an awesome tool for the powers that shouldn't be to keep secrets. If you think about it, what better tool or what better spy or secret keeper than somebody who's totally brainwashed and almost suffering from amnesia every time they change personalities. It's complete amnesia, and they, in Kathy O'Brien's case, which I know, Popeye, you've been reading her book recently, and I've studied her stuff going way back now. It's been like 5 years or so, and with her case, it's interesting because they didn't care if she drank alcohol or did coke or whatever. She was able to do anything she wanted on that note. But the one thing they wouldn't allow her to make use of was cannabis.
Yeah, I know. I made mention of that to you the other day. That's why we said it was amazing how the one thing that was forbidden for any of these mind control slaves was marijuana. In any form, whether it be, the THC, just a liquid, or smoking it, they didn't. But they would give them back then they called them Wonderland wafers.
Everything.
Well, Wonderland wafers were ecstasy, and that's what they called them back in the 80s. And they would give them that, coke, heroin, everything else. But pot, as Bob said, was completely forbidden. You weren't allowed to touch it. So it kind of makes you wonder why they're so against medical marijuana and everything else, because it's healthy, it helps your body, and I can tell you what, it promotes clear thinking and an open mind.
Yeah, well, Rick Simpson's work is great with
Ricky Simpson.
Oh, the hemp oil guy, yeah. He's, in fact, Bob, you know a lot. Shout out a link for him. If you know anything for Rick Simpson, throw out whatever you know.
Free Rick Simpson. Google Free Rick Simpson. Check that out. Yeah. There's plenty of documentaries. This is just...
He's in jail now, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think...
He knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Yes, we will. Couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. And today, I have a very, very special show lined up for you guys. I have two very, very, very special guests coming on. The first hour, I'm going to be joined not only by my co-host, JJ, who is always hanging out with me, but I'm going to be joined by one of the most awesome activists you guys will ever meet. He's a radio show host himself. He's got a very impressive background. He's been hosting radio shows.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. When you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that.
Shows since he was like 15 years old. Okay, that's impressive in itself.
Nice.
And he's an all-around great guy. His name's Bob Tuskin. And in the second hour, we're going to be joined by Gary Franchi. From RTR. He's made Camp FEMA 2. So stick around. The show is going to be great today. But without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to the man himself, Bob Tuskin. Take a bow.
Hey, thanks so much, Popeye. No, you're too kind. I'm a big fan of Federal Jack and all that you do. And when I saw your attempt at the city commission meetings, I said, this guy gets it. This is what it's all about. We need to get in front of our commissioners, in front of the local channels, and get the word out, whether it's on fluoride, 9/11, you name it. We have to demand chemtrails has been a big one. We met with the local EPA.
When you start losing stuff, you find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because